we are going to be covering a practical quality today. A quality of a seeker of truth, a seeker of the higher, is self-controlled. It's the 10th quality in our series. It's Yatatma. And Yatatma means self-controlled. And when we take up the quality today, the important aspects that we want to focus on is what does it mean by self and what does it mean to control self? What is that control? So when we talk about self-control, we use it very often. We might criticize our children, we might criticize our partner, ourselves included, and we say, you have no self-control. We overeat, no self-control. We don't manage the time, you say no self-control. But if a person was to turn around and ask you, what do you mean by self-control? What is it? How would you define it, anyone?
Control of your senses, Sudhakar.
Control of your senses. Okay.
Control of desires.
Control of desires. Yes.
Intellect.
So let's take a look. Sorry?
Intellect controlling the mind.
Intellect controlling the mind. Great one, Ashaji. It is the intellect controlling both the mind and the body. Desire being at the level of the mind, that is where the control is. So every human being is made up of our fundamental diagram, the BMI, body, mind, and intellect. So the body by itself has no power, has no thought, has no temptation, has no draw. But the senses at the level of the body definitely have desires. We are drawn to particular sense objects. But those desires, though at the physical level, fall under the mind. All desire is at the mental level. But those desires could pertain to the body. You have a desire for food. Or it could pertain to your mind. You have a desire for affection, desire for appreciation. Or it could pertain to the intellect. You have a desire for knowledge. But desire per se falls under the mind. Now, when we act, what is driving us? Is it the mind's desire, the in thinking, rationale, higher goal, duty, and obligation? And these are the two forces at play. The intellect's higher goal, obligation and duty, versus the mind's desire. And it could be sensual, it could be emotional, it could be intellectual. So when we say self-control, let us not mistake it for the supreme self, the spirit. That is not self-control. What we are managing, what we are controlling is our rational part of our personality, our discrimination, managing our desires. And the desires is the mind. Intellect managing the mind is self-control. And at the base discipline, so it's one of the initial disciplines of the spiritual path, is get your desires under control. Intellect must manage your mind, but it's also the base practice for happiness. If your mind is not under control of the intellect, we are going to be agitated, we are going to be obsessed, we are going to be stressed. So even for peace of mind, we need self-control. But you take it right up to the highest, the ultimate self-control. Can anyone guess what it is? What is the ultimate self-control?
Self-realization?
No.
Self-realization, there's no control required.
Controlling your thoughts.
Controlling your thoughts, yes, controlling your thoughts. So what is the highest form or highest version of this?
Isn't it the ability to control and manage your desires?
Manage the desires, yes. So
Control
this is
the
it. But what is the highest form of this?
Being a
Control the
sakshi.
senses.
Being a sakshi. What is the
The
other one?
ultimate desire is to achieve self-realization.
That's
And
the ultimate desire. What's the ultimate
Yeah.
form of self-control?
Control your senses.
Control your senses. The highest form. Debbie,
I
let
think-
go. One last desire, one last thought.
Could it be
Close.
detachment?
Detachment.
For the intellect being in charge. 100%
Self-control
of
is
time.
another form of detachment.
No
The
thoughts.
highest form of self-control is
There's no
meditation.
thoughts.
Is
Oh, meditation.
It is meditation. And meditation is the intellect being so strong, so sharp, that it is able to keep the mind not generally in a place. So even now, all right, for us, we're spending this hour together to study. We want to be in the session. We want to be in the class. We want to follow the subject. So we want to be, general concentration should be here on the subject. But the highest self-control is meditation because it's single pointed. It's like laser-like focus. So the intellect has to be so strong, so sharp to keep the mind not generally on this Zoom class, but on one thought, the chant, the mantra, Om. And it's holding that. So it's going Om, and it's holding that. The highest form of self-control is meditation. So from the spiritual beginner right up to the last stage of spirituality, meditation, we need self-control because it is the intellect managing the mind. Some desires are easier than others. So we can first control at action level. So sometimes we have a thought, we have a desire, but we realize at action level, not a good idea to go ahead. So sometimes you're angry, you would like to express it, maybe to your partner, maybe to your children. Self-control kicks in, intellect says, hang on. Okay, you've got the thought, you've got the desire to express it. It is not a good idea to express it. So you're able to control at action level. Higher than controlling at action level. More difficult than that is controlling at desire level. More difficult than that, subtler than that, is controlling at thought level. That when a thought comes up, that's the best time to control it. Because if you don't catch the thought then, that thought is going to become worry, is going to become anxiety, is going to become a full desire that might end up moving you to a different country, might end up destroying a relationship. One thought. To have the self-awareness, to have the self-control, such a sharp intellect to scrutinize every thought that comes into you, almost like a dispatch agent saying yes, no, allowed, not allowed. This is the highest control. And when you're doing that at meditation, keeping it on the thought that you want and not allowing any other thoughts in, the highest self-control. So we want to get this right. And self-control, it is a beautiful quality. It is the quality of the middle path. It is not indulgence. Indulgence means you let the mind go all out. Mind fully indulge. Anything you desire, anything you want, go all out. This is not a wise way of behaving because this reduces the quality of our happiness, our enjoyment. Anything we indulge in, we lose the pleasure, we lose the enjoyment. we also get frustrated because although we are indulging, we don't get more and more happier. The other side of it is abstinence. And when you abstain, and this is very different from self-control, it is when you abstain from an object beyond your capacity. And what you experience when you abstain beyond your capacity, you experience actually stronger desire. It's almost as if the desire revolts. You're pushing the desire. I don't want this. No more chocolate. I know quite a few people in this classroom as well who have fasted for Lent. And very interesting hearing the different things that they decided to try and control. So for some it was meat, for some it was chocolate, for some it was carbohydrates, difficult one. And we say, no more cake, no more chocolate. And then you end up dreaming of chocolate. You start looking at other people as walking chocolates. This means it is beyond your capacity, where it agitates you. There is a difference between self-control versus self-denial. Self-denial is when you abstain from an object or from a person, but your mind is racing towards that object or person. So although you are abstaining from that person or object physically, your mind is going even more to that object or person. It causes suppression, frustration, agitation. What is the middle path? The middle path is the intellect understanding the strength of the mind's desire and deciding to limit, to regulate, to restrain within your capacity at a comfortable stretch, not uncomfortable. There is definitely effort, but the self-control here is, number one, you decide, not other people. It's not about limits. You have to decide. So self-control, and there's a pun on the word self, it means it has to be imposed by yourself, by your intellect. It will not work if other people tell you, you know what, this time, 2 slices of bread, not 3. It won't work. So it has to be from you, number one. And number two, there should be a comfortable stretch, not that it overshoots your capacity, but just a little bit more than your capacity. Before your mind starts, and this is where that self-awareness is, before your mind starts thinking about it more than it needs to. Have you heard of prohibition? Prohibition, anyone? So some countries have it, some states in India have it. There was a time in US where there was prohibition. That was one of the periods of greatest consumption of alcohol. So when something is prohibited, the mind wants it even more. The reason why diets do not work is because people cut off beyond their capacity. And the mind retaliates and wants it that much more. So we've got to work with desire. We've got to understand the nature of desire. And the middle path is not allowing the desire to fully explode in terms of indulging in it. So you're not feeding the desire, because then you're feeding a fire. It's going to grow. But at the same time, you can't deny the desire completely, because that indirectly feeds the fire. The middle path is, and in chapter 3, there's a beautiful formula given in the Bhagavad Gita. It says, you've got to gain a little bit of higher knowledge, higher desire. And when you get that little bit of higher knowledge, you're able to abstain a little bit from the desire that you are trying to drop. And in that time, you build up your ability to abstain without agitation, without constantly thinking about that object or person. And then what do you do when you gain a little bit more self-control, a little bit more mastery over that object or person? Invested in higher knowledge. And when you get more higher knowledge, you can abstain a bit more. And these become the two pedals of the wheel. Higher knowledge, a little bit more abstinence. Higher knowledge, a little bit more abstinence. And this is the seamless way to practice self-control. So we persevere. We will try self-control. The mind would like high-speed internet. We don't have it at the moment. We will try and maintain our composure. There are two practices given for self-control in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 64. And the two practices are, and we'll put it up on the screen. The first is, one should not act on likes and dislikes. One should act on the intellect's duties, on the intellect's obligations. And the second form of self-control is to end perception with perception. So let's take it one by one. The first one. It's so simple, yet so difficult to practice. When we act, we can act on the mind's likes and dislikes, the mind's desires, or we can act on the intellect's obligations, duties. What does obligation or duty mean? Obligation or duty means what is your goal? What is the role that you've chosen for yourself? It is your higher goal. So whatever takes you towards fulfilling your roles and goals that you've chosen in life is an obligation, is a duty. I to do. Who decides that? You decide it. Like and dislike, or do you go on the intellect's obligation, duty? If you go on the mind's like and dislike, it further strengthens the desire. It makes the desire stronger. So, for instance, if you choose your food based on purely like and dislike, then your desire for that particular food gets stronger. But if you choose your food based on what is good for your goal, then you're actually decreasing the desire, because you're not acting for food, you're acting for the higher goal. So the first self-control practice is so simple. Let us not act on likes and dislikes, raga, dvesha. These are the two that constantly cause so much of trouble in our lives. Let us ask our intellect, what ought I to do? This is the first practice for self-control. The second one is end perception with perception. This was perception, anyone. How does a perception happen? There is a sense object. It could be something on the screen, TV screen. So that is the sense object, and it releases stimuli. So through waves, through sound, through light. And this is the stimuli. This is the data. And that data enters us through our sense organ. Okay, so for instance, when we see something, it is light entering the sense organ. But when is the perception complete? Anyone? When is the perception? When does the perception happen?
When mind registers it.
When the mind registers it. Now, what does that mean? You know, sometimes you might be driving. And you're driving and a friend or a partner is next to you. And you drive and the friend says, did you see that? Did you see that building? And you say, no, I didn't see it. And you say, how can you not see it? We were driving, we drove past it, you had to have seen it. Actually, you didn't see it. So the stimuli came, but because you were concentrating on the music or the road, the stimuli was there, but it did not register because it did not hit your sense center in the mind. So only when the stimuli goes to the sense organ and registers in the mind is the perception complete. So see this diagram. It shows exactly this. So often, there are so many things that people say, we don't register it because our mind is not there. So this diagram, if you follow, it's very simple. There are the respective sense objects for the respective senses. So sense object 1 on the left, bottom left, could be a movie. So the light from the movie goes through the eye. It only registers when it hits sense center in the mind. Same thing with sound. Sound waves through the ear, goes to the brain, sense center, and the sense center registers sound. Same with smell, same with sensation, same with taste. So unless it registers in the mind, perception is not complete. Now, what is the second self-control? What do we do here? So what it says is, have a perception. Go through the perception. So you watch a movie, great. You enjoy a meal, great. Taste it fully. But then, we have a tendency. Our mind has a tendency to want to relive it. We regurgitate it, so we bring it up again, and the mind relives it. Nostalgia. And we say, do you remember Howard, Devi, Prague retreat? We went for that beautiful walk. But when you're doing this, are you perceiving Prague? No, it's not in front of you. So what you're doing is you're lingering in a past perception. You are reliving it, you are regurgitating it. But when we do this, when we linger in a perception, indulging in the memory, which will increase desire. Desire for Prague retreat, desire for a particular meal. You might say, look, the meal is over. We had the meal last week, but you might say, oh, that restaurant, amazing. Oh, I can't wait to go again. But every time you reliving that restaurant experience, the desire is getting stronger. The second form of self-control given here is subtle. It's saying, when you go to the restaurant, enjoy it. But end the perception there. End perception with perception. Means move on to the next experience, be there 100%. But if you're thinking about the last experience during the present experience, you are creating desire for that which you've experienced, and you're not experiencing fully that which is in front of you. Double fault. We unnecessarily create desires by constantly remembering past experiences. One aspect that our family as well was guilty of is wedding photos, wedding albums. Why do you want to remember that day? And not only that, we want to have other people remember that day. And a poor, unsuspecting visitor comes to your house and you show them the wedding album. And they must go through and look excited, look interested. Oh, what a beautiful dress. Oh, such a nice suit. Oh, wow. Why are you reliving that? Focus on the marriage in front of you. Husband and wife are not talking to each other and they're looking at the wedding album. Look at what size I was then. End perception with perception. It was a beautiful moment. It was a beautiful time. Over. Create the next beautiful moment. How? By being in the present. And that's why being in the present is regarded as such a high spiritual practice, because when you are in the present, there is no desire generation if you get it right. What are the two ways of getting it right? Remember this, self-control. Number one, don't act on likes and dislikes. That further propels the desire. Act on intellect's duties and obligations. And second, having perceived, do not revel, linger, relive, regurgitate that particular perception. Move on. This is self-control. If we are practicing these two, we're well on our way to being self-controlled Yatatma, a beautiful quality of a seeker. In fact, without self-control, we cannot be free. We cannot be happy. And it's interesting because there's a paradox there. We think freedom is in doing whatever we want. But when you do whatever you want with the mind, there will be consequences. And those consequences, you become a victim of those consequences because of your unthought, mind-led choices. So to be truly free, there needs to be discipline. There needs to be controls. But why you are always the master in these disciplines or in these controls is because you decide them. And you decide them to live the life that you want. You decide them to maintain the longevity, the peace, the consequences that you've thought out and follow through on. So this is self-control. So please, friends, if you have any questions, make a note of them and we can take it up. You can unmute and ask the questions, or you can put it in the chat box. The question of the week, I've chosen something from one of the questions that was submitted about the yogas that we discussed last week. And the question for the week is this: how does the practice of bhakti yoga purify the personality? Does listening to devotional music or chanting the scriptures help purify the personality if one does not understand the language? If so, how? Okay, very practical question. If you remember, bhakti yoga is the path of devotion. It is when we use feelings and we redirect those feelings from the ego, from our own selfish interests, to something higher, something larger. It could be a larger goal. It could be towards the country. So you could even say you feel a sense of devotion when you sing the national anthem. Some fervor, some nationalistic feeling wells up in you. That's a form of devotion, devoted to the country. Higher than that is devotion to God, devotion to divinity, providence. So when we direct our feelings higher than our ego towards something higher, that is called bhakti yoga. Yoga means to unite, path. Bhakti is devotion. So you're using love, emotion, gratitude, all these feelings, and you're directing them higher. So the question here is, does devotional music, so music that was composed in praise of something higher, could be nature, could be classical music, Carnatic music, where the theme is on spirit, nature, creation, God, providence. Does listening to that music or chanting people listen to Buddhist chanting, chanting the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita. Is this a form of bhakti yoga? How would you answer? Anyone? What would you say? Is listening to devotional songs devotional?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
I feel so.
Mm-hmm. It depends. It depends on what are you thinking about when you listen to the music. So if that music takes your feelings to God, to something higher, then it's devotional. Then it's bhakti yoga, correct. But suppose your thoughts go, that is a very attractive singer. Then it's not going higher, it's going lower. Or if your thoughts go, that's a very nice outfit that they are wearing. I must find out who is the designer, who is the tailor. Your thoughts, even though you're listening to the music, your thoughts are going lower. So it is about what does that activity do for your feelings? And if it takes your feelings higher, yes, it is devotional. If it makes you think about nature, God, providence, something bigger than yourself, love, it's devotion. But what about if you don't understand the words? You don't understand the meaning of the particular song. So I think for many of you, including myself, I don't know the meanings of so many of the bhajans that we sing at the academy. Firstly, they're not just in one language, Sanskrit. They're in Hindi, Tamil, Telugu. There are different bhajans from different parts of India that we sing. And actually, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it is not about the meaning. The meaning, if we get into the meaning, that becomes an intellectual practice. It becomes jnana yoga. And some of the bhajans, particularly those of Kabir, an outstanding poet that's put into song, incredible meaning. But that's jnana yoga. But bhakti yoga is, it doesn't matter what the meaning is. What is the feeling that you can identify with? So for instance, you walk into a beautiful temple or a church or any of these places where so much of attention to detail, so much of love, so much of devotion has gone in. And you see the stained glass, you see the tall towers, you see the carvings of the statues. And who's it for? And those who have done it as an offering to that something higher, have done it as their offering to God. So you feel something that when even just walking into the place, there's no music, you feel a different energy. You feel part of something there. That feeling, devotion. you hear music, you don't know the meaning of it. But some music makes you think about sensuality. Some music makes you think about spirituality. So whether you know the words or not, what is the feeling that you have for it? So if devotional music or chanting, even if it's in another language that you don't understand, if it makes you think about something higher, by all means, it becomes devotional. You know what? It could even be a Spanish love song. The person is actually talking about their lover. But for you, you don't know what it means, and it makes you think about God. That could be your devotional music. So whatever takes your feelings higher is bhakti yoga. So a very important clarification there. It's about feeling. You don't need to know the meaning. If you know the meaning, great. It's a combination. Jnana yoga and bhakti yoga. Beautiful. Head and heart going higher. Wonderful. But if you don't know the meaning, it's okay. As long as the feeling is going.
Dakar, last week I was watching the Pope's funeral and looking at the basilica and the music and the prayers that were going on. It brought so much of sort of, bhakti into you, though I could not understand the Italian language.
That's exactly it.
Mm.
People coming together to pay respects to a person who has served. There's an elevated feeling. Bhakti yoga. Yes, Sonia.
No, I had a question once we're done with
Sure.
this.
Go ahead.
Okay, so self-control, this is extremely interesting. So you talked about, enjoy what's happening in front of you, be in the present, but then don't let it linger, end the perception. But a lot of times, I can just speak for myself, and chocolates and donuts and all that other stuff. There's a whole plate of donuts or whole plate of chocolates. And how do you stop yourself at that moment, and say, focus on the intellect, reminding you that, okay, you are full, 2 is enough. How do you do that?
Look, very good question. It is actually a capacity point. So at that time, Sonia, it depends on the strength of your intellect and the strength of your mind. If the intellect is not stronger than the mind at the time, there is nothing that you can do. You will eat the chocolate, you will regret, you will feel terrible afterwards. There's nothing you can do. Why? Because your intellect is not strong enough. It's like trying to pick up a weight. Either you can pick it up or you can't. But what you can do in the interim is build your capacity to lift that weight, build your capacity to manage, control the mind's desire with a stronger intellect. So our focus should be not on that moment, Sonia, but on building the capacity to handle future moments. So our focus should be, let me daily put some time into developing my intellect so I can choose the life that I want. In the interim, what might be helpful for self-control or to try and practice it is don't put it in front of you. So if you are trying to develop self-control over chocolate, but all the time the chocolate is in front of you, you're not helping yourself. You need to remove temporarily until you've mastered the environment. You need to remove that environment from you. Do not have it in your home. If the mind is so strong that it says, let's go, get in a car, go to the shop and buy a chocolate, you know what? It's okay. Go and do that. But you having it at home, we're setting ourselves up for the mind's susceptibility. We're making it more difficult than it needs to be. So let us remember, until our intellect is strong enough, environments will influence us. When the intellect is so powerful, then we can influence environments. So, in this interim, Sonia, while we develop the intellect to manage those moments, let us keep a conducive environment. Means, if you know you've got a tendency, if you've got a weakness for a particular desire, remove those from your view so it doesn't keep on inflaming the mind. And one more aspect, if you catch yourself eating the donut or the chocolate or that which you're abstaining from, one thing that could help is that while you are eating the chocolate or putting the cigarette in your mouth or whatever it is you're trying to control, bring awareness to what you're doing. So, be fully aware. Look, I'm not able to control it today. I'm going to have it, but one day I would like to conquer this. So, when you are aware and so you're allowing the mind, but you're also watching the mind gets a little nervous. It's like, hey, what's going on here? And that brings in a little bit more intellectual strength. So it's not like you've gone fully down a particular path where the mind is just gone crazy. It's exploding. Any chocolate it can find, it's devouring. You've brought in awareness to it, where you're having the chocolate, but you're fully aware of it. So you're watching it. So you're not able to control the desire yet, but you are able to watch yourself in the process of desire. And being aware is one step to being stronger. From awareness, the next step will be managing the desire itself. Okay? Next question.
Thank you.
Pleasure. What is your question?
Is it age? My question is self-control age related? For example, is it unfair to expect children to have self-control? Is it good to encourage it from a young age, or is it like development? Does a human have to be at a certain age? Because as adults we struggle, and I think that the reason why I struggle personally because I wasn't taught it. So I'm thinking if I try to encourage our children to grow in self-control, it will be easier for them. But sometimes I wonder, is it unfair to expect them to control their mind at a certain age? I'm not sure.
Good question. So is self-control age related? So yes, definitely. In the beginning, when we are born with the body and the mind. All right. So when you come into this world, you've got the body and the mind, but the intellect is latent. It's not yet born. It takes time. So even the mind takes time. It takes a few years, but you've got the body and the mind there at birth. So you experience feelings, you experience emotions, and definitely the body experiences, but there's no intellect to regulate those feelings when you're a young child. So to expect a young child, a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old, to self-regulate, self-control, with what, Wanjiru? There's no intellect to do that. At around between the ages of 6 and 10 years old, depending on child to child, the intellect starts slowly surfacing. And that's when they start questioning. They start asking. They start thinking. But that doesn't mean that they're able to control the mind yet, but the faculty, the facility is now available. Now we've got to develop that. So what we can do in young children is make them aware. Make them aware. Try and encourage the intellect by getting them to question their choices. Why are you choosing that? How many chocolates do you think is enough? Will it spoil the rest of your appetite? So by asking the questions, we're getting them to self-reflect, self-regulate. inadvertently, we're getting them to develop the intellect. When we tell them, don't eat it, we're not doing anything for their intellect. We're just giving them our imposition. So we're not giving them any self-control. We're not helping them grow their intellect. It does not do anything positive. Because behind your back, the child will very nicely eat the chocolate or whatever you told them not to do. So we're not really helping the child if we're not developing awareness and a stronger intellect through getting the child to question and hopefully reach conclusions by themselves. As we get older, it's a question of, once the intellect is available, Wanjiru, it's a question of usage. Are we using it? And the more we use it, the stronger it gets. So if we've not used it, it doesn't matter what age you are, the intellect will be weak, the mind will run riot. But if we've developed the intellect and we're using it regularly, we're servicing it. So you can't just develop it and let it go. You've got to service it. Keep that capacity going. It will serve you throughout your life. There is a story of a great sage. His name was Sage Durvasa, and he was renowned to be a Nitya Upavasi, which means one constantly on fast. And the story is that the wives of Lord Krishna decided to go and pay respects because he was on the other side of the river. He was in town. So they prepared all the things that you do when you go to meet a great saint, fine things, some gold, some food, etc. And he's also there with his students, with his disciples. So they prepared all these things to go and show their appreciation to the sage and the disciples. So they go to the river, but the river is in full flow. It's flooding. And they cannot cross the river. And the river puts a question. It says, I will let you go. I will let you go across the river. But when you come back, you must answer 2 questions. They said, okay, no problem. We'll answer the questions. So the river let them go. So the water subsided. They crossed over. They went to the sage. And remember, this sage is considered one who's constantly on fast. Fast means does not eat. And they gave the food and they gave the gold to the sage and the disciples. And the sage ate all the food. And the wives were shocked. He's supposed to be constantly on fast, and look at him. He ate all the food. They were shocked. They said, I don't know if this is a real sage. What is this? So they went back. They're returning home a little bit disappointed. They come to the river, and the river asked them 2 questions. And the first question that they asked is Sage Durvasa a Nitya Upavasi? And they say, no, he's not on constantly on fast. We saw him eat. And the river said, wrong answer. He is constantly on fast. They were confused. Then they said, can we ask you a question then? Our husband, Lord Krishna, he is meant to be said or called a Nitya Brahmacharya, means eternal celibate. Is it true? And the river said yes. And they crossed the river. And this is the story. And when you listen to the story, it is so perplexing, so confusing. How can a person with so many wives be an eternal celibate? How can a person who eats food be on constant fast? And what it means to depict is, your self-control has nothing to do about how much you eat, how much any sensual pleasure that you have. It is about, are you in control of the desire? So for another person, it might look like you're eating too much, but are you in control? Have you decided? And this is why Krishna was an eternal celibate, because although he had wives, he was always in control. Whilst the sage was eating, always in control. Perfect control over desire for food, desire for company. So the same thing here with self-control. It's not about whether you drink or whether you eat or whether you are intimate. What matters is who is in charge, the desire of your mind or the conviction of your intellect. If you are clear in what you're doing and you're able to manage the desire, you are self-controlled. So a beautiful, seemingly ridiculous story, but this is why it gets us to think. How can a person who eats be constantly on fast? Because it is about who's in charge. There's nothing wrong with the drink, but who's calling the shots? Is the shot calling you, or are you calling the shot? Same thing with everything in life. Are you in control? Are you able to follow what your intellect tells you to? So this is self-control. Any questions?
If your own intellect does not guide you, can you take use of other person's intellect?
Yes, you can. But that is also your intellect. In the sense, your intellect comes to the conclusion that I am not clear, so I am going to consult someone I believe has a stronger intellect than me. So actually you're using your intellect still, and you're taking somebody who is more expert in the particular field or is more objective in the particular situation. So you're still using your intellect, but yes, your point, you are consulting a higher intellect to help you with the decision.
Yeah.
Do not follow it blindly. Even then, does it make sense? Is the person able to explain why to you? And then follow it.
Okay. Thank you.
In this way, when our intellect is not clear, it becomes stronger because we are still activating it, and we're taking the advice of somebody who is more objective or is more experienced, more knowledgeable in that particular area of life, and lifting our intellect with their conversation. So we're actually strengthening our intellect in that process, although it seems as if we're just outsourcing it. We're not outsourcing it. We're taking the guidance of our intellect to make it stronger and come to a decision using the help of somebody who is more objective, more experienced in the field. In that way, we get the best of both. We get the advice, but we also get the development of our own intellect. So one thing is, in this path, we must take help. We don't know the self, we don't know the spirit, we may not know what higher living looks like. So yes, we must consult people who are in the field, who are living that. Yes, consult them. But ultimately, we want to be self-sufficient. We don't always want to hold on to the signpost. We want to become examples, signposts, developed, strong intellects ourselves. So our role is not to always rely on the guru, depend on the teacher. Ultimately, we want to be self-sufficient. So we've got to keep building our intellect as we take their advice, their direction. And that's a beautiful thing about the subject. It's not encouraging attachment. It's encouraging your personal growth and evolution. So thank you, everyone. Apologies for the connection today, and look forward to seeing you on video next week.
Thank you.
Before we part ways, there's a retreat at the Academy in July and a youth camp in June. So keep that in mind if you're passing or planning your trips to India. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Sudhakar.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Sudhakar.
so much, Sudhakar.